So let's begin with some beautiful Vortlach on this week's Parsha, Parshas Bo. Let's begin from the very start of the Parsha. It says in the pasuk, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe Bo el Paro, ki ani ichbati es libo v'eslev avadav l'man shisi ososai ela b'kirbo." And Pashup Pshat means here that Hashem told Moshe to go come Bo el Paro, and then he wants to place shisi ososai, my osios, my osos, my miracles upon them. So the Chassam Sofer points out that the Bali Tosos on the Parsha says that on the Mata was listed all the osios, the letters of all of the Makos, but they were all mixed together, and somehow Moshe had to interpret what they meant and sometimes manipulate the letters. So the Chassam Sofer quotes a beautiful idea from Shamshon Mashapoli. He says, when it says Ba el Paro, it says Kishisalik Paro Osios Pei Ayin. When you remove the letters Pei Ayin from Paro's name, you're left with the letters Reish He. And you switch them with the letters Bo in this week's Parsha. If you add the letters Beis Aleph to Paro, you remove the letters Pei Aleph, you have the letters Arbe. You have the He and the Reish of Paro, and the Aleph and Beis of Bo, that spells Paro. And that's what it means, Zeu Bo el Paro, Leman Shisi Ososai, to place my osios, take the letters Bo, and place them inside Paro's name, Bikera, Bikirbo, within him, within his name, and you have the letters of Arba. And now he says, so what does that mean with the letters of the Pei Reish, Pei Ayin that you removed from Paro's name? So Chassam Sofer says there are two ways to explain this. Yesh lefarish beis perushim, sheigara Paro Pei Ayin, you remove Pei Ayin, and you replace it with Beis Ayin, Beis Aleph rather, or you add Beis Aleph to Paro's name, and now you have the gematria Paro plus Beis Aleph is the gematria of Nachash. Nachash, bringing the Nachashim on Paro, reference to the Mata and the snake. All right, fancy footwork of the Rav Shamshon Mashapoli. The next idea is a beautiful kliyakar. It says in the pasuk with respect to Arba, "V'chises ein haaretz v'lo yuchal liros es aretz," and the Arba was so many they covered the land and you couldn't see. Says Rashi, Perish Rashi Haroa, one who tried looking at the land couldn't see. Vikar chasam min sefer, says the kliyakar. What does that mean? Who was looking? Od kashel perusha, asks the kliyakar. Ki mashalo yuchal liros es aretz ein bezen nafkus lein hanezek. Okay, so what? The psukim described to us how powerful, how great, how grand the damage is. So what relevance is it that they couldn't see, or someone couldn't see the land? How does that reflect what's going on with the nezek of the makos? So the kliyakar says, "V'omer ani, I, in my humble opinion, think pshat is as follows: Hayadua shekol asomim ochlin." It's brought down in the Gemara that those who are blind, those who can't see, ochlin veinam sveim, they eat but they're not satisfied. When a person sees what they eat, how it looks, the presentation, that adds to how it tastes. When it's put on a nice dish, it's displayed nicely, you have a nice table that's set, it enhances not only how a person views it, but somehow it affects the person's, how full he is. The emotional element affects the person's severe. So, kach arba. Because there are so many arba. There's such a vast amount of locust that brought darkness onto the ground. Gamma arba in yachaliros. They couldn't see what they were eating. The sun was blocked. There's so many locusts there. It says mashu ochel. They couldn't see what they were eating. The harei ochel kasuma ba'aruba it's as if the suma's eating v'lo yispa. They weren't satisfied. V'alkein yochas kol asher b'sada. They ate more and more. Normally locusts get satisfied apparently after some time. But since they couldn't see, they're b'derech suma that were ochlen v'ein svim, and therefore their arba ate even more. So in fact, this was a description that lo yuchal liros es haaretz, the arba couldn't see the ground, and it described the damage, the additional nezek, because they didn't get satisfied, so they ate more and more. The next one's a beautiful Emir Pinchas, or Pinchas Karetz. Pinchas Karetz is commenting on Choshech, and he says that the Orach Chaim explains to us that the Choshech, the darkness, didn't come about because of an absence of light. Rather, it came about because of the presence of the Or. Says the Rechaim, the Or Haganas. The Or Haganas was exposed, it was revealed, and it was so powerful, so strong, it brought darkness. What that means is that just like it's brought down, that the Baal Shem Tov explains that the light that darkens, the light that blinds the einaim of the klipos, the eyes of the wicked, the eyes of the dangerous demons and mazikin out there, it's because the light is so strong, it brings blindness to them, they can't see. Because kol ha'tameim ro'on b'layla, all the animals that are nocturnal, the animals, we don't eat any, there are no kosher animals that are nocturnal. All nocturnal animals are tameh. They see perfectly fine at nighttime. It's the sitcha of Gehenim. The nighttime is the side of the Gehenim. An atleif, a bat, for example, can see during the daytime. He's not able to see because the light comes from the Or of the Gan Eden, says the Rav Pinchas Karitzer. And that light brings darkness to the bats and the other nocturnal animals. And so he says that's what it means in Parsha B'Shalach. Vayhi hanan v'choshech v'yares halayla. There was a cloud, and then there was darkness, and it brought light into the night. Kol davar echad, it's all the same. That same Or, the same Or that was Meir L'Yisrael, it was the same Or that was Machshech to Mitzrayim because they couldn't handle. Their eyes were closed because they couldn't see. So it was really a element of the powerful magnitude of light that created the darkness. That's the understanding of a Pinchas Karet. The next idea is a lamdusha pshat, a lachic pshat by Rav Naftali Horowitz on the pasuk of Daber na be'aznei ha'am, when it came to Choshech, speak to each other. V'yishalu ish me'esrei eyu, and they should borrow from each other. V'isha me'esrei usa klei chesed v'klei zav. And the Gemara says that ein na, it says daber na. What does daber na be'aznei ha'am mean? Ein na ela lashon bakasha, a request. The bakasha was to borrow from the Mitzrim, take their nechasim. Because the Gemara says, Shlo Yomar Oseh Tzaddik, we don't want that Tzaddik Avram Avinu to taina on a Kadosh Baruch Hu, V'avodim Vinu Osam, you fulfilled the part of the Nevuah that you're going to enslave and cause great pains to my nation. That you did. But that we left with a great Rechush, Lokaim Hem. So for that reason, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, please, I beg of you, just take the Nechasim so Avram Avinu doesn't have a taina. Yeshlis bone. We have to understand, says Rav Naftali Horowitz. Why was it Dafka collecting the spoils of Mitzrayim that Hakadosh Baruch Hu was so concerned with the time of Avram Avinu? Yeshlomar, we could suggest that according to the halacha, in Adam Nerag Mishalim, there's a halacha of Kimle, but the Rabbi Minay, a person can only get punished once. A person does one action, and the punishments, there's two punishments for an action. Let's say, for example, a person steals something on Shabbos, so he's carrying in Rosh Hashanah, let's say, but he's also stealing. But since he's Chayiv Misa, he's Chayiv Skila for carrying in Rosh Hashanah, he's parted from the Geneva, from the Mamonis. You always get the worst punishment. So here as well, he says that Madua Hanishu es Mitzrayim Gam B'Misa Gam B'Mamon. How can we punish the Mitzrayim twice? We killed them with all the various makos and also take their money. So how can that work? How is that allowed? Eladin she'ein meish mishalim, this halacha that you can't kill and also take their money. It's only if the chiyuv comes from one mechayiv. It's one ma'isa, one action that has two results. You can only take one. But when it's misa lazet hashum liacher, when you're taking punishment for what they did to one person and you're taking money for something else they did to another person, then you actually can both give them misa and mishalim. It's misa lazet. And therefore, we punish the Mitzrayim twice. One is the Misa that they got, the punishment they got killed, is because the slavery that they had placed upon Am Yisrael. But in terms of Tashlumim, that's not paying back Am Yisrael. The Tashlumim is for Acher, that's for Avram's Taina. Avram Avinu's Taina, Shelo Yomar Osa Tzaddik. And for that reason, we were allowed to collect the money, and it wasn't in violation of Kimle, but the Rabbi Minay. Okay, very nice lamdushup shot for the pasuk. Then further, a beautiful Sfas Emes. The pasuk tells us, "Vayisa ha'ames b'tekel terem yachmatz," and the nation of Am Yisrael took the dough before it became chametz, misharosam tzuros b'simlosam al shichmam, and they had wrapped it together and they wore it. The Mechilta says, did they not have animals to schlep this? Why were they carrying the matzahs on their shoulders? So it says the Sfas Emes, or the Medrash verse says, L'chabibus ha-mitzvah. It shows chavivas ha-mitzvah. We do certain things to show chavivas. We kiss a mezuzah to show chavivas. We kiss a sefer Torah to show chavivas. So the Sfas Emes elaborates on this point. He says, Kinei ikr tachlis ha-mitzvah, dios nishar mimenu rishima ba'adam. The point and purpose of a mitzvah is not only to fulfill it and get the check mark, which of course is the most important piece, but it's also to have a rishima, to have something that's everlasting, to have a mark that remains on us. Like he explains elsewhere, it says in the Pasuk of Mitzvosai Titzbo Ne'itcha, that my mitzvahs should be hidden within you. Kasher osin ha-mitzvos berov ava v'chuk. When a person fulfills the mitzvahs with all this love and desire, nisheres ha'aras ha-mitzvah b'nefesh adam. It leaves a light that remains on the person's nefesh. When you do it with chukah, when you do this with ava. And just like it says that tzaddik zechuyosov chakukin al atzmosov, a tzaddik's great merit is ingrained and embedded on his bones, becomes part of who he is physically, spiritually. So that's what it means. The shiurei mit matzah maror, that the leftover matzahs, the leftover maror, was tzuros b'simlosim, was wrapped in their clothing. It was a levush, a clothing that was nasa dei mitzvah, that was fulfilled by doing the mitzvah. It became levush, it became a part of who they were. It was ingrained in their bones. There was a light left in their nefesh, in the neshama. And that's what he explains. It goes on to elaborate how the hachanas of the mitzvah, the desire to do a mitzvah, has a greater lasting mark on a person, on his body, than the mitzvah itself. The next piece is a beautiful gra. The gra, when it says, "V'nei Yisrael asu kadvar Moshe," they fulfilled the word of Moshe. V'yishalu miMitzrayim klei chesed v'klei zav usmalos. They borrowed from the Mitzrayim all the silver, all the gold, all the clothing. And Rashi says, "Asu kadvar Moshe she'amar lehem b'Mitzrayim," that we said earlier. V'yishalu ish me'Yisrael. You asked your friend, "Oh, did you have something?" So when they were leaving, they were able to collect the nechasim that each the Mitzrayim had. Ulachor asks the Gra, "Mahu mechadish b'dvarim elu." What's Rashi adding that, we asked them earlier to borrow things, and now we're actually taking it? What's Rashi adding? So the Gra says something incredible. Moshe Beinu, Omer L'chai, so he says to Am Yisrael, B'Shem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's giving an order to Am Yisrael that he heard from Hashem, She'yishalu ish me'Yisrael klei chasu klei zav, to borrow from his friend. Halazos yikari re'eu. We're referring to a mitzvah as our friend. HaMitzvah zehu chaver shel Yisraeli, that we ask him to borrow a klei chasu klei zav me're'eu. Since when do we call mitzvah our friend? They enslaved us. Ela Omer Gaon, says the Gaon. The Gaon says, Masha nemar diber no bazneham vishal ish me'Yisrael. When we were asking our friend to borrow Rusa Klei Chesed, Ein HaKavana, the intent was not Shesakelim Yishal HaYehudi Me'aMitzri. We were not requesting to borrow something from the Mitzri. Elam HaChaver HaYehudi. We're asking from our Yiddish friends, Re'ehu, to borrow their items. Why? Shekenim Rotem HaYehudim Mishah Goy Yishalu Lehem Esakelim. If you want the Goy to lend you something, Kodem Aleim Lasos Chesed Echad Masheni. First do a chesed with your Jewish neighbor. Ma'aseh chesed halalu yaviu shefash chesed li'olam. When you do a chesed with a Jew, that's going to bring an incredible chesed to the entire world, and it's going to even impact those around you. V'chein hagam hamitzri yashil Yehudi. He also will start lending to the Yehudi. That's what it means. Uvnei Yisrael asu kedvar Moshe. They acted according to the word of Moshe. That Moshe said, borrow, lend to your friend, and that eventually impact Mitzrayim to lend to Am Yisrael as well at the very end. Then finally, Rav Eliyahu Dessler. It says at the end of the Parsha, Moshe b'nei Yisrael asher yoshu Mitzrayim, and they dwelled in Mitzrayim shloshim shana v'arba me'os shana, 430 years. Chazal tell us that the 400 years of Shibud was nigzar on the children of Avram. His chilu mileidas Yitzchak began already from the moment Yitzchak was born. The Kashma Dvarim, it's very hard to understand. Yitzchak was never enslaved. How could you count the Cheshbon from Yitzchak's birth? And it says that Yashu Be'eretz Mitzrayim, they lived for 430 years. From when Yitzchak was born, they didn't live in Mitzrayim yet. So Harav Moshe Tzioni says, Chazal was referring to the Shibud HaRuchni, not a physical dwelling in Mitzrayim, but a spiritual dwelling. And that began from the times of Yitzchak. The Sarsha Yisrael already was Meshubud to the Sarsha Mitzrayim from the moment of the birth of Yitzchak. Explains Rav Dessler in Mechtam Eliyahu. Shiroshim Panimi Shel Shibud, the impact the Shibud had. Hayakvar Mishas Nevuah Ve'elach. Just like we said already that when a person does a mitzvah and he does it with a great Avan Shuka, it has an effect on his nefesh, on his neshama. So to this Nevuah. The Nevuah of Shibud had an effect on the neshama of the Jew. And what nation doesn't fall until his sar above falls above? What that means is, even though we may not have experienced it physically in the world, but the Gemara says, even though I may not have seen it, but my mazel saw it. The reference to Daniel, the Gemara Megillah tells us. Even though we may not know something, we may not see something, but we feel something. There's something our mazel tells us. Umishas Gezer, the moment that Gezerah took effect, Bein HaBasarim, with the Leid of Yitzchak, even though we didn't know this, Kfar Hu Margish B'Yiridas, we already felt. We felt it. There was a certain Yerida in the Pnimius, in the Ruchnius. Kol Adam Margish has Rashis Nifilas. We all know when there's a downfall. We know when something's going to start spiraling out of control. B'Rifyon Amum, when there's something weak. And that's what it means. Although physically we were not living there just yet, we were not there for a total of 430 years, but spiritually we were feeling the effect of the Nevuah of Shibud Mitzrayim. Everybody should have a wonderful week and a wonderful Shabbos.